Thank you very much, Jill. As you all know, I used to be a chess player. And unlike card games, chess has 100% information available in front of you. So I used to analyze facts. So in your question, you actually put them together. Certain things, we can discuss. So, for instance, economic data, though maybe it's not trustworthy, but still at least there's some numbers you can look at. Yes, we could see some discontent among Russians on the internet issue. But regarding Putin, trouble, Putin's health, Putin's inner circle, look, the real situation with a dictator, it's the most guarded secret for any dictatorship. So the answer is, I don't know. For a very simple reason, I don't want to speculate. I think we could talk about what's happening on the battlefield in Ukraine. We can look at some numbers, based on oil prices. We can look at Ukraine's successful attacks against Russian refineries and military industry. But the moment you talk about inner circle, it reminds me of the old, Kremlinology, looking at the mausoleum, who was there, next to Brezhnev, and how does it affect politics. This is, this more like astrology.
Yeah.
So, yes, Putin is not doing well. We understand because it's the 5th year of the war, it's supposed to last 3 days. But whether he's going to collapse, I don't think we should talk about it. I think we should look at what we can analyze. And I just heard now saying it's Europe should, can no longer afford illusions about Russia. Unfortunately, Europe cannot afford, the civilized world cannot afford, but these illusions are still there. There's still, the discussions about the whole nature of this war, and I think it's a right moment, at least to take a deep breath and look at the facts. And the fact is that Putin is not just at war against Ukraine. Putin is at war against Europe, against all European institutions, against the free world. And it's not Garry Kasparov telling you. I'm simply telling what Vladimir Putin has been communicating very steadily to the world for more than 2 decades.
Right.
People ask me, so how did you know? So, did you see it? I said, I didn't see it, I heard it. Very simple reason. I just was listening to what Vladimir Putin has been saying. And, it's kind of a paradox. Dictators always lie about what they have done. But very often they tell you exactly what they're going to do. So the Mein Kampf was published in 1925, and it was a blueprint. Nobody took it seriously in 1925. But when in 2005, Vladimir Putin, already second-term Russian president, in control of Russian nukes and also enormous amount of money, addressed the joint session of Russian Duma and Senate, and said bluntly, the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Direct quote from Russian. I mean, that was a problem. So Vladimir Putin made it very clear, and then for those who didn't want to hear him saying it in Russian in Moscow, he repeated it in 2007 at Munich Security Conference, looking straight into the eyes of Bush 43 and all other leaders of the free world. And for those who couldn't hear him, next year he attacked the Republic of Georgia. So Vladimir Putin's goal was, is, and will be, and there's no indication he's changed it, to restore the glory of the Russian Empire, which means to push NATO back to 1997 borders. That was a part of the ultimatum that Vladimir Putin laid down back in 2007 and put again on the table in December 2021. So that's why Ukraine is the main target now, but it's not the ultimate goal. And the problem is Europe still doesn't want to recognize it. We're still talking about hypothetical. This is not a threat, this is a menace. Vladimir Putin is, again, making it very clear that he will continue the war as long as he has resources. That's why all these talks, let's restart conversation. And with all due respect to President of Finland, Mr. Stubb, what are you going to discuss with Putin? What? Tell me. What is on the agenda? Because Russian demands have not changed. Yes, he's not doing well, but it doesn't mean he'll stop because Putin is war. War has become an oxygen for the regime. It's an engine. To end the war, it's probably the end of Putin. I'm not sure, he's well-read, but I think instinctively, it's animal instinct for dictators. He knows that in Russian history, the tsars and dictators could do whatever, except one thing. One thing the people never forgave them. It's a war that they couldn't win. Unwinnable war in Russia always led to the collapse of the regime, or at least, major social upheaval. So that's why Putin would continue. And let's be objective. So Europe, 20 packages of sanctions. Nice. 21st one is on the way. Why not to do it in 2? I mean, what is the whole, this endless process? And also, we heard this morning, great conversations about military budgets, 3.5%, 5%, perfect. Deep strike capabilities. Question is, are you going to use them? Because the big question is, if, God forbid, something happens and Vladimir Putin would cross NATO borders, here or in Latvia or Lithuania, are you going to fight? Or are you going to wait for Donald Trump to give you permission? So who is going to make a decision if Vladimir Putin does unthinkable a few years ago? Now it's not unthinkable anymore. So that's what we should discuss now. And it seems to me that there's a big elephant in the room, but everybody goes around.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit.